Hi, I'm Stephen Walton. I'm a photographer and artist, and I'm a resident photographer at Bury Art Museum. I'm making this video today here at Kirklees Trail, which is my favourite local place to come and take photos, to hopefully help you take photos that you're a little bit happier with, have a bit more character, tell a bit more of a story, and give people a sense of the character of a place or an event you've been to. So in the future, hopefully the things you're going to learn and we'll talk about in this video will help you take photos when you go on holiday or when you go on a walk, or if you're at a family event. The main things we're going to be looking at are composition. Really key to whether a picture works or not. We're going to be hopefully taking photos in different lighting, and I'll talk about how that can affect an image, and also timing. Those are the main things with photography. So what should you actually photograph? That's entirely up to you, and that's what's going to make your photos look different to anybody else's. But if you want a few suggestions, throughout this video you'll see that I've put up on the screen some challenges of the sort of things that I would suggest you're looking for when you're taking your images. Throughout all of these challenges, composition is going to be key. So bear in mind all the things I'll be talking about in the video to do with composition, because they'll really help lift your picture beyond just a snapshot. They should hopefully turn them into a photograph. It's not going to matter what equipment you use, whether you use a fancy camera, something like this, or if you just use your phone. It really doesn't matter. The things we're going to be talking about apply equally. It's more about the image than the actual equipment you're going to be using. There'll be a few technical things that we'll talk about, and if you are using an actual camera, there'll be a few more things you can do to change an image than you can with a phone, but hopefully it shouldn't make too much of a difference. Yeah, so I hope you enjoy it, and let's go and do it. Good morning, it's just before sunrise, and I've come out because this is the best times to take photographs. Light is one of the three main things in photography, and the hours around sunrise and sunset are generally when the best light is, and a magical time in the day. So especially in summer when there's just so few people around, I don't expect to see anybody for at least another hour or so. Lots of lovely bird sounds, and hopefully I'll be able to get some really nice photos. Okay, got a few images then. You might have noticed that I took a couple in portrait orientation, so nice and tall to get the height of the sky in, and I turned it into landscape, the traditional format for images, landscape, and that gives you a bit of a wider view. And then these two trees here are going to be in silhouette. That's because they're just much too dark compared to the bright sky to be able to capture any of the colour. But that'll be fine, it'll kind of frame that area of the sky and set off its colour. So I'm just going to quickly move to a new location, and then I'll take a few more photos. Okay. Okay, so as you can see, the sky's really bright over there now. Sun's just about to come up, I think. As humans, we're spoilt with our vision. Our brains process light very quickly, so we tend to see lots of detail in shadows, detail in all the highlights, and we can put all that information together into one full picture of an image, so you get to see all the beautiful colours and light all at the same time. Cameras just simply aren't able to do that, and different digital cameras, different film cameras, depending on what you're using, can capture certain different amounts of that light, but they can't capture it all, not in a single photo, which is why sometimes you will see an object entirely in silhouette in front of a colourful bright sky, Or you will see the opposite. You will see information and detail in all the shadows, but the sky will be very, very pale with very little detail or colour in it, and that's simply because the camera is capturing either more information in the shadows or more information in the highlights.
An ocean, a cave, a dream that no one could save, a shelter, a whole act, a light that died with the night. You and I, we got our differences, yet I thought we were more alike than unlike. Months of rain and chest pain, what's the plan? Heavy breathing, stay insane. Grab my hand. Everything is grey inside this narrow maze.
So, composition. What exactly is it? It's everything that's in your scene. It's all the different elements of the image you're going to take coming together and hopefully all working, all nothing in it that's distracting or that is actually working against the idea. Starting with the most well-known, most basic of all the compositional ideas is something that's called the rule of thirds, and it's basically that you should place the main subject or the main elements in your picture along one of the thirds of the image. If you were to split the image up into thirds, either vertically or horizontally, each of those lines, imaginary lines, would be, in theory, the best place to put one of, to put the main subject and the other main elements in your image. If you put that main subject on one of the areas where the lines intersect, one of the four areas where the lines intersect, that again is the perfect place if you want a nicely balanced image. If I was going to take a photograph of this bridge, what do I do? What do I think about? So, I'm thinking that I could stand with the bridge perfectly in front of me, and that's a nice image. The shadows make it quite dynamic. Another thing, by moving over to the side here, we create, down here on the left corner, where's my finger here, a lovely diagonal line. One of the most powerful things you can have in a photograph is a leading line, such as this, coming in from the corner, and if I just move forward a little bit, you can see I've now created another one from the right. The shadow coming in is a leading line, and we have the no horses sign perfectly placed on one of the thirds. But for all this time, I've not really been considering my background. Really important background. So we've got this lovely line of trees here. So maybe I should raise it up and have those included in the frame. But now we've lost the shadows at the background, in the foreground. So should I step back? So that I step back. Always be careful when you're walking backwards, and try to incorporate the background trees so that you're not cutting them off. Maybe you raise it up, so, and maybe now that's our image, because we've got a nice triangle at the bottom made by the shadows and the line of grass. The horse's sign is on a third, and the trees are nicely placed, not cut off, and we have a clear blue sky. Probably would be better, this image, if we had a little white cloud in the top right, but we don't. So as you can see, quite a few things to think about when you're taking a photograph of a scene like this. After I'd just stopped filming that little section then, when I was looking at the bridge, I noticed that I had failed to do one of the things I was going to tell you to do, and that was to check the image for distractions. You might have noticed it when I was doing that filming, but there was some little litter. Can't stand litter. Just at the beginning of the bridge, some sort of plastic white cup. So I'm hoping that it was because I was doing the video and I wasn't paying full attention to the actual image itself, rather than concentrating on what I was saying. Check the image for distractions. So I've now gone. I've put that cup in a bin, and I could take the photograph again if I was something I really wanted to do. We have a lovely green scene, lots and lots of greenery, and as I said, one of my favourite effects is the backlight. So here, because of the other side of the valley and mainly the trees there, I think it's the trees rather than the buildings behind them that's casting shadows, you get these lovely areas of these strips of sunlight bursting through, just catching the tops of some of the mid-ground trees and some of the foreground grasses. It's also creating lovely shadows. So it's just such a lovely effect. The little strips of light coming down into the image that again can really lift an image or break it. Again, that's down to your own visual preference. Some people really like those in an image. Some people might think they spoil an image. I like them. The way to do it is it's best to not have the sun fully visible in the frame, which it is here because we're a bit lower down. We can't hide the sun behind anything. But if you can hide the sun behind a tree or a branch or a leaf, if you're doing a closer up image, then you can control the amount of sun that's coming through and control the sunburst. So that's another thing to try. But here, what image am I going to take? Well, I think that's nice with all this backlit grass. So I'm going to take an image there, and that tree in the top right is kind of balanced by the highlights and the trees in the top left. We have a lovely diagonal line coming from the bottom left corner.
There's some stains on your photo, little cracks on your rusty frame, stuck in the mud, but it's okay. I don't have the pieces of you buried in the flashbacks. All these wicked nightmares has gone cold. Now we go way, way back, as far as way back goes. Still standing by your side. You know I'll be right here when all the monsters come. I've got you.
Okay, so I've come onto the bridge itself now, and one of the little tips that I wanted to pass on was about turning around to have a look where you've just been. It's a good idea when you're just out anyway, but when you're taking photos it can really help. So the scene we were just shooting, I was shooting a little bit ago, was backlit, and now that backlight is now, from my position at the moment, is side light. It's coming from the side, so it's casting shadows that come across our scene rather than towards us. So here you see, I think I like this because you get the shadow cast by this set of trees here, and then you get a tiny little shadow here which creates a little bit of pattern, a little bit of rhythm between the picture. I like this little loop of the path, and it's nice, but I do like that as well because you get the path coming in, there's my finger there, and going to the left, and you get the river coming in, where's my finger, there, and echoing that movement. So I like them both. It's a cyclist, and obviously looking like he should be going, should be moving. So compositionally, you wouldn't put this in the middle. You would want this over to the right hand side of the image, meaning he's got lots of space in front of him to move into. So hopefully you can see the difference. I'll take a picture of each of those. So we've got where I would compose him over to the right hand side, in the middle. Then there is the argument to say, well, if you put him over to the left, well then that suggests he's travelled that distance. So again, sometimes the rules of composition, they're very flexible, as long as you've got an idea of why you're not following them exactly. Now, in terms of storytelling, you come to a place like this, if there's any sculptures or any artworks or distinctive things that are unique to that area, location, that would be a really good thing to take a photograph of. It could be a main image, depending on how much you like it. It could be seen as a transitional image, which is sort of something that helps move the story of the other photos along in a series of images. So something like this, which is actually a sculpture, sort of an iron sculpture of David Swivenbank, who walked along here a long time. He died a little while back. A lovely chap, incredibly talented artist, and he lived just on Holcombe Hill, basically, just lower down on Holcombe Hill, just near Peel Tower. So it's a really nice view to have Peel Tower in the distance, and David here. I want to try and get a portrait of David here, and I also want to try and make sure Peel Tower is visible in the distance. So those are the two main elements. This is when I would look around the frame to decide on some distractions. So might decide, well, there's that no horses sign there, and the distraction of the bridge itself, we might not want that. So if we move around and use the actual sculpture itself to block some of that. So I took a few variations, and this was my favourite of those. Shows David's beard as green, his head and face blue, and it shows Holcombe Hill and Peel Tower in the distance. This one a lower viewpoint, and it has Peel Tower placed inside David's shoulder, and then I stepped back even further, and using my camera rather than my phone, I took these two variations showing the whole statue with Peel Tower and Holcombe Hill in the distance. A good habit to get into is to, rather than arms outstretched like this, it'd be better it's better to tuck your arms in. Just tuck your arms in so that they're against your chest, and that creates a much more stable platform for your image. So yeah, just do that. And when you're pressing the shutter button, or you're pressing the screen, or the button, however your camera takes an image, do it as gently as possible rather than jabbing at it, because that creates a bit of shake on your camera that can ruin an image, especially if the light isn't great. Final tip to share is to try and learn how your camera uses the self timer. So for instance, on mine, I'm taking a photo on an iPhone, it's just up there, choose 3 seconds, and then when you're taking your image, you know, you compose it, you press the button, then you have a little countdown as to when the photo's going to be taken, and that hopefully means you'll get a nice steady shot. Okay, so I'm just going to take some photos of these 2 dogs and this lady as they go past. Trying to get the right moment. Because they create a lovely effect, lovely shadows, break up the pattern that's cast by the bridge itself, the shadows. So hopefully that'll be a nice image. And yeah, we'll put it up on screen and see if it is a nice image. So I was then able to set this image going the other way along the bridge. So I managed to get the 3 people nicely spaced out. The chap on the bike just gone into the shadow, so you get the lovely negative space between his arm, showing the sunlit fence behind. The shadows running diagonally beautifully through the picture really gives it some movement. So I was happy with this one. Another really important element of photography is timing. I think I've mentioned it a few times, and what I mean by that is, when should you take a photo? If you have a little bit of time to think about it. Sometimes you might want to wait for a cloud to move into a better position to make a more even composition. If there's a bridge, as we have here, you might want to wait till there's somebody walking across it in a position that makes the image a little bit more interesting, a bit more dynamic. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to wait here until somebody comes along and gives us a nice composition. If you can move into a position whereby you can have an odd number of things in the frame rather than an even number. So for instance here, the legs of this bridge, there's 4, and then there's the ends themselves that connect the bridge to the hillsides. But if I was to take a photograph that included the 4 legs, which is this, it's arguably less interesting and less visually pleasing than if I was just to include 3, like that. Take a photograph of this chap when he's above the leg, the strut. Leg, is that the right word? But then if I take him when he's there, in between one of the fence posts too, that should just give us a better position. A few images now that show different elements of timing. This one was a quick snapshot when I realised the birds were going to take off. This is a scene where if I just waited a minute or so for the water to settle, 2 very different images. This one was waiting for the people to be in the right position, so they were all distinctly separate figures. This one again, waiting for the person to be in just the right spot and the bird flying over at an opportune moment. And then finally, one of my favourite images, I saw the birds flying over. Had a little bit of time just to try and get them bang centre in the middle, nicely positioned. Okay, I just thought I'd try and demonstrate how a small step to your left or right can massively change a picture. So here we have obviously the underside of the bridge, and if I was going to take a photo that was about the bridge, then I would want to try and keep the sun, since it's such a bright sunny day, out of the image, directly out of the image anyway, because as soon as I step to the right, you will see the sun takes over and it becomes the main element of the image. Further example of how a relatively small change in position can have a big effect on how a picture looks. Here we have this branch coming down and the end of it is lost in front of this set of trees, and the same with this branch here. Just a small change in position means you can isolate these leaves in front of the sky, similar here, and it just gives a much clearer, clearer picture. Okay, there's a lovely other sculpture in this part of Kirklees Trail. So I'm going to take a photo of this. Whether it becomes a main image again or it's used as one of those transitional images that just helps define this place and make it what makes it unique and gives people an idea of what's here if they were to come and visit. So I'll take some shots of this, whether it's a wider view that I ended up showing or a detail. So this is a section where I might decide to not show the whole thing, just a detail of it. So I'll take those now, and then again we'll see which we prefer. And finally, just a few photos of smaller things and details I've noticed over many walks at Kirklees Trail. Things like plants and flowers and interesting trees, maybe some shots of the water, the brook there. Anything that catches your eye and you think might be of interest. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the project and speaking with you, and I'll see you on the Zoom meeting in about a week's time. Okay, hope you enjoy. Thank you.